Hello, Genie. Okay, Boomer here. Welcome to this week's vlog. This week we're going to be talking about, well, I was going to say abortion. It's not really about abortion. It's about the leaked draft. It's Dobbs versus Jackson. That's the case. Well, we all know what it is, unless you've been, I don't know, on another planet with no internet access or TV access for the last month or so. But there's a possibility, so it's only a possibility. So don't take this as gospel. It could be wrong because it was only a draft. But according to this leaked draft, as everybody knows, the Supreme Court will be overturning or reversing, that's actually the right legal term, I believe, will be reversing Roe versus Wade. Now, obviously, there are some implications for abortion. You can tell the way the left is freaking out. So I'm going to talk about it, but in a different way. I have to first give you my disclaimer that I occasionally give, which is that I'm a conservative. Always keep that in mind when you evaluate whatever I say. I usually try to give this disclaimer, remember to give it when I'm about to characterize something as good news or bad news, because when I say this is really good news, then obviously I mean good news for conservatives, bad news for our dear friends on the left, or vice versa if it's bad, if I say something is bad news. Because this, I think, is some good news, but what I want to talk about is something that nobody has really mentioned. As you can tell, you're seeing attacks on pregnancy advisory centers, on right-to-life organizations, their headquarters. So you're seeing a violent reaction from the left, and it's obvious that they are not going to be too happy with this decision when it comes out, usually the end of June or it would be the beginning of July, if what comes out, if the actual decision reflects what is in the draft, which is one reason why I don't really want to talk about the case, because we haven't had the decision yet. I'll only say that Democrats are really, well, whoever leaked the draft is really hurting himself or hurting the Democrats or abortion supporters, because it's only it's a draft. They're already protesting the draft, so what's going to be left when the actual decision comes out? That's number one. Number two, ideally you would want the decision to come out at the end of October, at the end of the next Supreme Court term. You would want it to come out right before the election, so people who are the liberals or whatever, if the idea is to galvanize votes for Democrats, that's when you would want it to come out, shortly before the election. Now, not only if whoever leaked this had done nothing, then the decision would have come out in June. That would still be 6 months, or not 6 months. It would be between June and November. Now it's between May and November, because the draft has already come out and people are reacting to it. And I think by the time the election comes around, in fact, I think even by the time the actual decision comes around, it's not going to be the major issue that Democrats are hoping that it's going to be. In fact, already you're seeing that the main concerns are inflation and the crisis in immigration at the border. Something I was going to say about that, but I want to talk about my angle on this possible decision, which I can make now because it doesn't really matter which way the actual decision actually goes. Because what I want to talk about, as I alluded or I stated in the title to this vlog, is something that there's an unspoken fear that the left has if the Supreme Court reverses Roe v. Wade. They are very afraid of something, and it's not about abortion. It has nothing to do with the specific issue of abortion. This is what they're really afraid of. This is what the Democrats are really afraid of. They don't say, so I'm going to say it, and they might not even realize it themselves, but I realize it, so I'm going to share it with everybody. And it's this: the Democrats, the left, has been on decades, almost three-quarters of a century now, more than three-quarters of a century, since the election of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. They've been on this crusade to change the country, but it's even worse now. We have a Democratic Party that is so controlled by the left that they are, well, I'm tempted to echo Michael Walsh. He's a pundit. One of his comments that the Democratic Party is a criminal organization masquerading as a party. That will be another vlog for another day. But it's also increasingly clear that they are out and out socialists, number one, economically, and they are also, well, they're grooming kids for kids should be kept innocent until they're at least teenagers. That's how it was when I was a kid, and I didn't know what homosexuality was. And in fact, I'll tell you, I'm going to digress and tell you a story. It was when I went to college. When I went to college, in my first year in college, I got invited to a party at a frat house, and I went to this party. You know, it was a guy in my film class, and after about a half hour, I said, "Well, where are the women? Aren't any? How come there are no women at this party?" That's how I figured it out. That's how I learned about homosexuality. That's how naive I was. But it didn't hurt me. But kids should be kept innocent, but the left doesn't feel that way. And so you have these, the left wants to teach kids about their I don't know, unlimited amount of sexes. And I actually read an article just today. A woman, her child in school, she learned that the teacher was calling her child by a different name and a different pronoun than the child's biological sex. I think it was a girl. I'm not sure, boy or girl. But anyways, or I guess it could be both if you're a liberal, or neither. But she wrote to the teacher and said, I don't want you doing this. I want you to call my kid by her given name, and I want you to call my child by my child's the traditional pronouns. And she got a letter back basically from the teacher, basically saying no, that the teacher would not comply. So the point is that, which I'll get to now after my digression, the left has been on a campaign since for decades, but it's accelerating now with this horrible administration we have, to transform the country in very many ways, which I'm not going to discuss individually right now. Just that they operate on the theory that they will do something radical, or they will do something that will cost a lot of money, change the country in some way, and then get voted out of office, but they will eventually be voted back into office, back into power again, and then they can just pick up where they left off. So we had Social Security, and then in the 60s we had Medicaid and Medicare, and then going on, and now Obamacare. And one of their key victories was Roe v. Wade. And you have to remember, Roe v. Wade wasn't even about a right to abortion. It was about a specific law in Texas that Norma Corvey, the Roe in Roe v. Wade, she wanted an abortion. Texas law wouldn't allow it. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg, none other than Ruth Bader Ginsburg, said that the Supreme Court in Roe v. Wade went too far, that they could have stopped with just, the states were working out, and the Supreme Court should have stopped simply by striking that specific Texas law as being too extreme or whatever. But they went farther and created a constitutional right for an abortion. And I listened to some of the oral arguments, by the way, in the Dobbs versus Jackson case, and Clarence Thomas, Justice Thomas, his first question to the attorney for the government was, show me in the Constitution where there's a right to abortion. And the attorney could not do it. Could not do it, and in fact the whole case was argued on stare decisis, which means let it stand. In other words, when you have a decision that's been on the books for a while, you got to think real hard before you overturn it. And Alito, the Justice Alito, who wrote the Jackson, the Dobbs opinion, he put I read that opinion too, and there are 2 pages of tiny, small print footnotes of precedents, that earlier cases that the Supreme Court has overturned. So it's not unusual, it can be done. But Roe v. Wade, the idea was the left, their whole philosophy or their whole strategy is that once Roe v. Wade was decided, could not be touched, it would not be reversed, and then they could go on to the next thing, which was, I guess, gay marriage, and they have other plans for the future. The idea is that they may lose an election, as I'm pretty confident they will in November. They'll get voted out, but eventually there will be a Democratic House, a Democratic Senate, a Democratic president, and they'll just pick up where they left off. But that all changes if Roe v. Wade gets reversed. If Roe v. Wade gets reversed, that tells the left that they can no longer rely on whatever well, 2 things. Number one, they can no longer rely on their belief that everything that they enact into law or get through a Supreme Court decision will stay, that it's engraved in stone, written in stone once it's decided or enacted, and they can just go on to the next thing and just build on what they've done before. That all changes if Roe v. Wade gets reversed. Then they're going to have to go to the states to do it, because I'm very confident that if somebody comes along to challenge the Dobbs decision, even if you have 9 justices, 9 liberal justices on the Supreme Court, they are not going to want to touch it. They will be so glad to be out of the abortion debate, because if they do that, then you're going to have, definitely a politicized court where Roe v. Wade is going to be reversed and reinstated every time a Supreme Court gets philosophical majority on one side or the other. Plus you're going to will have had in that time a number of state laws that would be struck down. So that's something, this is now we get to some of the good news. So I think Dobbs cannot be reversed. I think now it's the Republicans who are in the driver's seat, at least in this one respect, that, well, 2 things. That earlier liberal policies, left-wing policies, can be reversed, and that once they are reversed, they will never be or can never be reinstated. For instance, Obamacare. If Obamacare, now we can hope for Obamacare to be repealed. Now your Roe v. Wade is gone. I mean, you're going to have to defend it at the state level and leave the red states alone. But now they have to worry about defending Obamacare if Trump is reelected and there's imagine a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate, maybe 51 seats. So I think Murkowski will be gone. Collins' vote, which is very moderate, won't be needed, and then a majority, a big majority in the House. So I could see big changes, at least for Obamacare. So, but they're going to be focused, the left, on defending Obamacare. Then what about as Social Security goes increasingly bankrupt? Well, what about at least a partial privatization? Who could object to, say, 1 penny out of $1? Put it into a private account. It's such a small amount, has such a little effect on Social Security, the main government program as it is, that who could object? So, but the left will. But you see, they're going to be on. The point is, they were on offense, and now with this decision, if it holds, the Democrats the left especially, will be on defense. And that, to me, as a conservative, is very, very good news. And that's this week's vlog. Thanks as always for stopping by. I really appreciate the time you spend with me. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions for future topics, you can put them in the comments section below the video. Share this video with anybody. Well, share them all with anybody you think would like them, enjoy them. And you can subscribe. I love getting new subscribers. But most of all, come back and see me again. Would love to see all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.